Today we're going to consider the American Nuclear Infrastructure Act of 2020, as well as 8 General Services Administration resolutions. Senator Carper and I have agreed that we will begin voting at 9:55. At that time, I will call up the items on the agenda. We'll not debate the items on the agenda while we are voting. Instead, we will debate these items before we vote, and I'll also be happy to recognize any member who still wishes to speak after the voting concludes. Last month, I introduced the American Nuclear Infrastructure Act with Senators Whitehouse and Crapo and Booker. And I want to thank all of them for their efforts to craft this important legislation. I also want to thank Ranking Member Carper for working with all of us to draft a substitute amendment that I actually believe will improve the bill. So I want to thank you, as well as I want to thank Senator Capito, who co-sponsored the bill as well. The American Nuclear Infrastructure Act will promote U.S. international leadership. It will preserve America's nuclear fuel supply chain. It will prevent more carbon emissions from entering our atmosphere, and it will protect our economic, our energy, and our national security. Advanced nuclear technologies will be safer, smaller, and more flexible. These designs will provide additional reliable, clean electricity in addition to the nuclear power that's available today. The bill supports pioneers who are developing new ways to generate nuclear power. It also supports innovators who are exploring new ways to use it. We can further reduce our emissions and strengthen our security by incentivizing new technologies that allow for nuclear power to be used beyond the electricity sector. Deploying new nuclear reactors will provide enormous environmental benefits. Innovation, not government regulations and taxes, to me is the best way to address climate change. American uranium should fuel America's nuclear reactors. Wyoming is the leading uranium producer in the United States, but American producers continue to be threatened by our foreign adversaries. Russia and its allies have unfairly flooded the global uranium market with cheap nuclear fuel. This hurts our businesses and it costs jobs. The American Nuclear Infrastructure Act establishes a national uranium reserve. The reserve will ensure that America is not dependent on our rivals for our nuclear fuel. 2 years ago, this committee worked to pass the Nuclear Energy Innovation and Modernization Act with overwhelming bipartisan support. I introduced that bill with Senators Whitehouse and Inhofe and Booker and Capito and Manchin and Crapo and Fisher. A bipartisan group of 11 additional members, including Senators Carper and Rounds and Duckworth, also joined as co-sponsors. That bill laid the foundation for the development of safety rules that govern new advanced nuclear technologies. It also increased transparency and predictability in how the Nuclear Regulatory Commission recovers its funding. President Trump signed that bill into law in January of 2019. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission continues to implement the law. While we moved forward with today's bill, our committee will continue to oversee how our previous bipartisan legislation is implemented. Again, I want to thank all of the members of this committee for working with me to introduce and improve the American Nuclear Infrastructure Act. I'm going to continue to work with them as we move forward with this legislation. Last, we're going to consider 8 resolutions to approve General Services Administration prospectuses. These will enable federal agencies to update buildings to ensure safety and consolidate space, resulting in increased efficiency and fiscal responsibility. I'd now like to turn to Ranking Member Carper for a statement.